Okay.
I'm just waiting for YouTube to start. Okay, we are on YouTube going live. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the Ringstorf Park Magical Bridge Playground Zoom community meeting. First, I would like to let our Spanish-speaking audience know that you can listen to the Spanish translation of this meeting interpreted by Elena Garcia, and she's here with us now.
Buenas tardes, quiero dejarles saber si quieren escuchar esto en español. Va a haber un botón abajo de la pantalla que pueden presionar y les puede pedir todo en español. Y ahorita que lo prendan, por favor, presionen el botón en español. Gracias.
Thank you, Elena. Now she's going to be doing this translation in the background, and so if you're listening to this in English, you will only hear this English version. If you have any difficulties with your Zoom connection, feel free to switch over to the YouTube and dial in mountainview.gov/YouTube. This is new territory for us to be holding a virtual community meeting. We plan to keep this meeting to about 60 minutes. Thank you for participating. And just one more thing is we had originally planned to have this meeting in March, but because of the way our world changed, in fact, in March, it would be at the community center live, but because the way our world changed, instead of waiting any further, we wanted to just go ahead and do this as a Zoom virtual meeting. And I am going to start the PowerPoint. So my name is Ray Rodriguez, and I am a senior project manager of the city of Mountain View, and I'm managing the project for the city. Peter Jensen is with us. He is a landscape architect and the playground designer. And later, Jill Asher will join us to talk about fundraising towards the end of the presentation. I ask everyone to hold on to your questions until the end of the presentation. When we begin the Q&A portion, you'll be able to click on the raise your hand icon feature, or if you're joining us by phone, you can press 9. I'll review that again when we get to that slide. So our meeting agenda. So we will discuss what a magical bridge is. Peter will talk about the design process for Magical Bridge, the playground. Jill will talk about donating to the project. I will come back and talk about the project schedule, and then we'll do the Q&A portion. I'll turn it over to Peter now.
Great, thank you, Ray. As Ray said, I'm just going to go through a general review of Magical Bridge Playground and then go into the specific site design for the playground in Mountain View. The Magical Bridge Foundation is a nonprofit foundation that was established a few years ago in response to the construction of the first Magical Bridge Playground in Palo Alto. There was a lot of interest in bringing an inclusive playground like the one in Palo Alto to other communities. From that, the nonprofit was started. The first playground, Magical Bridge, if you've been there in Palo Alto, Mitchell Park, it opened in 2015. It's a very, very used playground, one of the most used playgrounds I've actually ever seen. I think at one point we did a little study on it that 15,000 people a month were playing there, which is quite extraordinary for a playground. Not just building a playground, but also kind of building its own community of people that go there and use the playground itself. That playground in Palo Alto is considered the most inclusive playground in the world. Basically what that means is that no matter what your age or ability, that you can play and find play activities on the playground to experience. And currently the foundation is working on a new Magical Bridge playgrounds around the Bay Area. The next one that will open will be in Redwood City, hopefully in the next couple of months. Santa Clara, Mountain View, and Morgan Hill are also in different stages of design and development. And Sunnyvale itself will also be under construction pretty soon. So very exciting to get these playgrounds out in the community for more people to use. Ray, you can go to the next slide. So as I was saying, what is a Magical Bridge playground? It's a playground that is inclusive of everyone. So no matter what your age or ability, you can play on the playground. And how that is done is the playground itself is designed to different play zones. What we did was look at different play activities like spinning, swinging, climbing, imagination play, innovation, a tot lot, which you have to have a separate little playground for younger kids to play at, and also incorporating an idea of a kindness corner just to spread those messages of being kind to one another as we play. The play zones themselves are then grouped with multiple pieces of play equipment that have different degrees of use. Ray, you can go to the next slide. So really, no matter what your ability in each play zone, you will find that experience to play on. So for example, the spinning zone, it has 4 or 5 different spinning types of equipment. And again, no matter your age or ability, you will be able to use one of those pieces of equipment to experience the fun of spinning, which is very important for the cognitive development and the development of the inner ear, especially for younger children. Being able to spin and swing is an important play factor in the overall development. And of course, we do want to go beyond ADA standards. So the American Disability Act states that playgrounds have to be accessible. They have specific rules on how that is accomplished. We try to go above and beyond that, making sure that all the equipment is accessible, that our ramps are less steep than what is actually required for easier access, and making sure that every place in the playground itself you can get to and use. So ADA lays some of that stuff out, but not to the extent that a Magical Bridge playground does. The other difference, of course, the playground is larger than most playgrounds, usually about 1 acre in size. This gives us the opportunity to then have multiple pieces of equipment in each play zone, as the equipment does have very specific fall zone requirements that does take up quite a bit of space. Ray can go to the next slide. Here is an image of the Magical Bridge Playground in Palo Alto. As you can see, this is a typical day on the playground. It's very well used. You're looking at the spin zone in the foreground and the slide and climbing mound in the back. Just giving you an idea of kind of how the playground is used and what it'll aesthetically look like when it's put together. Ray, go to the next slide. So we come now to the Mountain View playground specifically. Ray, you can go to the next one. And the playground itself is going to be in Ringstorff Park, back by the tennis court area. Ray, did you want to talk a little bit about kind of the existing amenities and what the plan is for the future there?
Yes, so as Peter mentioned, you can see the playground area there about near center, just north of the tennis courts. But the park, you can see the community center there just to the left of center. That's the new community center. This is an old aerial during the construction of the community center. North of the community center is the Ringstorff pool. To the right there is the barbecue area. And something we do have planned for the park is to replace the restrooms that are currently over in that tennis court area. We will remove the existing restroom, the tennis building that's there, and combine both of those functions into one building adjacent to the playground. The maintenance building that's also shown there will be relocated to near the barbecue area, where we will combine that with the future restroom as well. When we remove the maintenance building, we will reconfigure that end of the parking lot for some improvements on drop-off area to the playground area. So I'll turn it back over to you, Peter.
Great. So the site has some very distinct site features that do benefit the playground. Of course, it is heavily shaded with existing trees that we do want to maintain the majority of those trees. We'll talk about that here in a second. It also has a nice existing mound that we can start to use to create our slide mound. Fitting that part of it into the landscapes kind of seamlessly in this area. So there are some nice benefits besides it just being set back more into the park and being more privatized. I think that'll make a very nice playground setting. Ray, can go to the next slide. One of the things that we are having to deal with is that on one side of our property runs the San Francisco municipal water pipeline, the Hetchy pipeline. We can't build on that. So you see in the first graphic, there's this orange easement area or area that defines kind of our edge to our playground. So that is kind of a limiting factor to that space over there. The other thing we're looking at is the existing trees. So right now, currently on site is 44 existing trees. The majority of those being a very large and beautiful redwood stand that we really want to kind of tuck the playground in and work around. We are going to remove 16 of the trees. The majority of those trees are being removed just due to their species. You can see the red trees on the plan are liquid amber, which drop kind of a little spiky ball that can be a tripping hazard, especially in the playground with folks there that may not move around as easily. We'd like to limit that tripping hazard. And then you'll also see the blue trees that are kind of along the hill in the back are eucalyptus variety that we're going to remove. We are going to install actually 40 new trees in the playground. We will be planting native trees, an assortment of oak varieties, coast live oak and black oak and valley oak, as well as sycamore trees. Those trees will provide more canopy than actually what's out there right now. They'll also be more suited to fit into the environment that they're living, using less water and requiring less maintenance over the long haul. So even though we are removing a few trees, the majority of the trees that we have and the canopy that we have are being maintained, and what we are removing, we are replacing with a more suited and a broader native trees. There you go. This is a study, a bubble diagram, basically of kind of exploring the area and how the playground can lay out. You can see then we're starting to recognize our different play zones. So you have the swing zone, the spin zone, the sliding and climbing occurring back up on the existing mound. Also in the area, there's an existing little terraced seating space that's kind of tucked into the redwood trees. We want to use that space as kind of the focal feature of our playhouse and stage, repurpose the terrace seating area for people to sit. It works well in that space. It's already incorporated within the existing redwood grove, so we don't have to really touch it or damage the trees in any way. And it's a nice feature really to use. We have the tot lot, the innovation zone, and then also our entry point into the playground as well. Ray, you can go to the next one. So here's a more detailed plan then of the playground itself. The entry walkway is over here, so the main part of the park is in this area, and you come down very similar to the existing walkway that's there now to our entry plaza here. It brings yourself across a little bridge This is our water mitigation area. So kind of all the park's runoff has been designed to actually flow into this filtration planter that exists there, which then allows us to have a little bridge into the playground itself. You'll see the new tot lot is there. Currently, the park does have an actual tot lot playground that's existing in this area, so it'll be very close to where the existing one is now, with different play equipment for younger kids. Usually, tot lot areas are from age 2 to 5, so that's basically who that's serving. The swing zone is always the largest zone just because of the amount of fall space you have to have. That's in our more open space in the turf area here. We have our spin zone, which is flanked on either side by these beautiful Chinese elm stands. We're going to use one as a shaded seating area. If you've ever been to the Magical Bridge in Palo Alto, you know that the stage and the playhouse sit under these cork oaks that make this kind of really nice seating area for people. We're going to replicate that same idea here. And then we also have our innovation zone with our magic harp underneath the trees here, so it's very well protected. Our ramp to get up to the slide mound occurs here and gets you all the way up to the top. And then along that, there's different types of slides at different heights. And then the walkway that gets you back up to the playhouse, and then our existing kind of terrace seating area that's out in front of it. And you can start to see the 3D image to the side shows the entry plaza and the swing zone, the spinning zone in the middle, and you can kind of get a glimpse through the trees of the slide mound back there. We're going to look through each of these zones a little bit more specifically as we kind of go through these slides. So Ray, you can go to the next one. So this first area that we're looking at here then is the swing zone, and you can start to see the disc swings. We're getting having 3 of those there, which is nice. Palo Alto currently has 2. We think that having at least 1 more is good just because of the amount of use that they get. So we had the opportunity with the space there to have 3. And then you can see the swings above that. We also have a sway boat that's kind of tucked up underneath the redwood trees there and taking advantage of the shade there. So that's our swing zone. Ray, we can go to the next one. Here's the spin zone, more centrally located in the playground itself, having 3 different spinning apparatus, the disc, the net spinner, and the in-ground carousel. So again, really no matter what your ability, you'll find something in the spin zone to use and experience that play type. Ray, we can go to the next one. Here's a view of the slide and climbing zone. So you can start to see the rampway working itself up the current existing mound. The mound will be covered with synthetic turf on the slide side, which can also be used for sliding. So the whole hillside really is a big slide. And then you finally get up to the top of the slide mound, which is 7 feet above the finished surface of the playground itself. And there's a big roller slide up there, very similar to, again, the one in Palo Alto, which is really one of the beloved features of the playground itself. The walk up to the top of the slide mound also takes you to the 2nd floor of the playhouse. You can see the elevated walkway that's getting you to the playhouse and the back of the playhouse right there. Ray, we can go to the next one. This is just a little image of the laser harp. So in Palo Alto, we have a similar thing. It's working by lasers, and they're shooting down from that purple bar that's you're seeing there. Then as you break the laser, the sound is emitted. The beautiful part about the laser harp is that no matter how many people are playing or how many lasers are broken at the same time, the sound melds together in a more harmonic and a prettier sound than just the typical playground equipment, which is mostly banging on drums and things. So eliminating that type of frenzy sound is important, but still having a play element that incorporates sound and does that in a soothing way is important to the playground And that's where the Magic Harp comes in, which is really true innovation as far as the playground goes. Ray, we can go to the next one. Here also is the imagination zone, which they refer to as the playhouse. So this is the front of the playhouse, and you can see that the existing terraced seating area is there. Of course, we're going to treat that a little bit, clean up the walls, and make the seating area, which right now is dirt, either synthetic turf or paved, so it's cleaner and easier to use. The seating area will also have the kindness corner element, which exists in Magical Bridge Playground, usually a mural or an art installation with the words of joy and encouragement and kindness, just to remind everyone that's one of the key elements of playing on the playground is being kind to everyone and accepting everyone. Ray, you can go to the next one. Here's the tot lot for the kids 2 to 5. You see it's kind of a smaller version of the overall playground. You have your slide, a little mound, the swings, and some climbing apparatus, and some spring toys that are in there. Spring toys may seem a little old school, but that aspect of rocking back and forth is very important in early child development. Ray, you can go to the next one. So that's kind of the overall zones of the playground. To the left of the screen, you're seeing an overall above image or plan of the layout again. The bottom picture to the right is the entryway, which has the donor walls in recognition of those that contributed to the park itself, which sets up very well at the entry there. And then Ray, I think we can go to the next one. So I'm going to turn it over to Jill. She can talk a little bit about our fundraising for the playground.
Hi, everyone. First, please know how incredibly grateful we are to the city of Mountain View and to the county, and really to everyone who has made this playground possible. We feel so fortunate to be coming to Mountain View and into Rangsdorf Park, and we know that this is going to be certainly a loved playground. And yes, we're in incredibly unusual times, but we want you to know that Magical Bridge is uniquely poised and ready for potential social distancing playing, and the new kind of playgrounds that will be needed after we're done sheltering in place and we're coming into our new normal. So we are here for you. We are ready. But we want to let everyone know that there is still the ability to support our playground project. And if you make a contribution or a donation of $300 or above, your name will go on the donor wall, similar to the donor wall in Palo Alto. If you visited us here, it will be more in the entry plaza, but it's a wonderful, wonderful way to leave a lasting legacy to the community. We also have sponsorships for buddy benches, which start at $10,000, and for your name to also go on the retreat huts if you make a donation of $25,000 or above. We are getting there. We are ready. Once we're totally done fundraising, and we'll go through a timeline after this, but we are ready to build and bring Magical Bridge to your beloved community. And we can promise you that this will be the crown jewel of Mountain View. It will be a place where everybody at every stage of life will feel welcome, will have fun, from the very, very young to the seniors and into the elderlies and to the grown-ups and to the teens. This is a magical place that will just delight everyone at every stage of life. So we hope that you'll continue to participate. And if you are able to make some type of sponsorship here, it will be something that you'll be very, very proud of. And so we thank you. And if you have questions about sponsorship, you could reach me at jill@magicalbridge.org. We're happy to talk to you about this project and our work to give everyone at every stage of life a place to play. So thank you.
Thank you, Jill. So we're near the end of this presentation, and I'd like to talk about the schedule, the project schedule. So after tonight's meeting, we plan to take this project to the Parks and Recreation Commission to obtain their recommendation for this conceptual plan. We'll do that in June. I believe the date is June 10th. The Parks and Rec Commission provided a recommendation to the City Council. We'll go to the City Council in September to get City Council's approval of that conceptual plan. Once we have that, then it will initiate the development of the plans and specifications to get the project out to bid, which we anticipate to be in early 2021. The project construction should start in spring 2021 after the bidding. And we look at opening and dedication of the playground in early 2022. So we are now at the Q&A portion. So again, a reminder, you can select the raise hand feature on the Zoom, or if you're on the phone, press 9 and we'll be able to get your call. I think you could also type in questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom. And I'm going to stop sharing this so I can see the rest of the screen. And we have some of our staff helping with getting these questions to us. So
Ray, we have one question for you. The question is the entrance from Escuela?
Is the entrance from Escuela? Oh, this is from the senior, this must be from the senior center childcare area. We don't have plans for any, there's not an existing pathway from that area at this time. I think actually you can go around the childcare center through the parking lot and come around into the park. So that's the connection from the senior center childcare area. What else do we have?
That is the only question that we have at this moment. Oh, never mind. One just came in. All right. Do you have ETA on any of the other playground locations?
I could answer that. As far as the other magical bridge goes, is that what it's asking?
That's my assumption, yes. And Ramona, if I'm incorrect on that assumption, please respond. Thank you.
The playground in Redwood City, of course, under the current conditions, the playground was supposed to be open by now, but it's been delayed a little bit. I would say that the Redwood City one will open up in the next few months. The one after that, Sunnyvale, will start construction here very shortly. Usually takes about a year. So, I would say 14 months from now, the Sunnyvale one will open. That'll be very similar to the Morgan Hill one. We'll start construction here in the next couple of weeks. And it'll take about a year to do. So the Sunnyvale and the Morgan Hill will open roughly at the same time. Mountain View then will follow that. And then will then be preceded by Santa Clara sometime in the later part of 2022. So those are the time frames for the other magical bridges at this time.
Okay. I actually see a comment here from Malinka, the executive director of Magical Bridge. She wanted to make sure we point out that the colors that you show are not necessarily representative of what will be created. I think that's still to be determined. Are there any other questions?
Yep, I have a few questions lined up here. The first one is, how much more money do you need to raise?
I will take this one. So we are incredibly hopeful at this time that we are going to be receiving a fairly large donation from Google, assuming that the Ranksdorf project gets approved in June from the City Council. If so, we're looking at potentially 900,000 for that. If that donation comes through, we are then trying to, move to the construction phase, and we'll be there. So we're hopeful for that at this point.
I would like to add, so just for clarification, the budget for the project. The city has committed about $1 million, has committed $1 million to this project. And the county awarded a $1.7 million grant for the project. Magical Bridge is responsible for fundraising $1.8 million, which they've done just over $1 million so far. Is that correct, Jill?
That's correct. And this donation, hopefully will push us over, the edge. With that said, if anyone is listening and wants to make some magical donations to the project, certainly if we had more money, there's additional things that we could do with the playground. But we want to make it as magical as possible and as welcoming and something that everyone will be really, really proud of. And the reality is that people in Mountain View, your residents and your community shouldn't have to travel to another city to be able to play. And you should be able to play in your own community. So we're getting there. We are definitely getting there.
Okay, we have another question. Can you speak a bit about the planning around the bathroom remodel?
Yes, I can do that. We have proposed in the current City of Mountain View capital improvement program funding to design the restroom. The funding for construction will come later, but we'd like to have the design and construction of that restroom in place just before the construction of Magical Bridge. There's some sequencing that needs to happen so we can get the restroom installed. We are looking at most likely a prefabricated building. So it will get constructed off-site. We would just need to bring a crane in to offload it and drop it onto its location, and then, of course, hook up the utilities and finish up the installation. But we want to do that before Magical Bridge construction begins. Otherwise, it'd be difficult to get a crane in there later. So we're looking at that sequencing.
Okay, I have another question. This one is for Peter. What brand or type of synthetic turf that you mentioned on slide 15, what brand or type of that is that? And then how is synthetic turf wearing at Palo Alto?
Those are good questions. We usually do not specify a specific type of turf starting off the project. Synthetic turf is seems to be developing rapidly, especially over the last 5 years. So every time we make a specification, then we find something better that we like to use. So what will end up happening is that the contractor will then give us the updated samples, and we'll select a sample from what the current market is on synthetic turf. I would say that we do like to use a synthetic turf that has kind of a built-in thatch or a secondary layer that's underneath it. Unlike most synthetic fields, the synthetic turf used in the playground doesn't have a sand base to it, so it needs to have its own rigidity to hold itself up, which is very important. We have learned a few things with the synthetic turf at Magical Bridge in Palo Alto. Originally, the synthetic turf covered the entire slide mound. We've reduced some of that and made some of it, especially in the areas where kids walk up next to the slides a lot, the poured in place rubber, and are just using areas of synthetic turf where kids like to slide. But we have designed it so it's just one piece of turf. So in the future, when it does need to be replaced, it's very easy to do that. We've also developed better detailing of how the turf is attached on top of the slide mound, so it doesn't tear away. Due to the sliding, that was one of the things that was happening before. The synthetic turf that's laid on the level portion seems to be working out very, very well. That has not been replaced at all since the playground opened. Has a little wearing along one of the edges, especially in one of a high traffic area. But overall, the synthetic turf is doing very well out there. So,
Okay. The next question is in regards to the colors of the renderings. Are they the representative of the actual desired colors? Or have the colors been selected based on the conditions of persons with visual impairments? And they stated that they think that red is the color that bleeds out for colorblind folks.
yes, most of the colors or the zones and the equipment are in different shades of blue. Blue and white. Blue is one of the colors that we all see. Of course, red and green, for those that are colorblind, they do not register those colors. So we do try to limit ourselves and stick mostly with shades of blue. Usually, though, the rubber, we start to mix in either different granular colors so it doesn't look all as one specific surface, or overly plastic as just being one constant blue, but we try to mix some colors in there to make it a little bit more aesthetic. The playhouse itself in the renderings is just a rendering of what the potential colors could be. The playhouse is definitely the element in the park or the playground that has all the color, and all of its colors kind of bleed out into other little details of the playground that kind of unify the space. Those colors we will spend a little bit more time in selecting. The playhouses that we have for Magical Bridge, they're very similar in all their form, except for the actual color. The paint, the stain of the playhouse is different in all of them. So Mountain View will have a unique paint or stain of its playhouse as well. And we'll get into more detail of that down the line.
Okay. So the next question is, how do you choose the playground brand equipment for your project, as there's many companies that make similar equipment?
Yes. Well, that's definitely one of the things that also separates Magical Bridge from other playgrounds, is that Magical Bridge uses somewhere between 5 and 7 different playground equipment manufacturers for the equipment. Usually a standard playground just uses one manufacturer for the equipment. So creating or designing playground equipment is very difficult. It takes many, many years to design a new piece of equipment for it to come on the market and be tested. That is definitely one of the constraining factors of designing a playground like this, and was really one of the first things that the foundation embarked on, was going through every playground manufacturer's catalog and finding the pieces of equipment that would best suit our needs. And what we do is like for the spinning zone, we rank the play equipment in different degrees of usability. So if you have limited use, that's on the like a 1 level, which means you have to use some type of walker or crutches or wheelchair to move around. So we need to basically make sure that we have one piece of equipment in there that really, if you have limited ability, you can use that piece of equipment. And then the other pieces of equipment build up from there, and their degree of difficulty in using increases. So we have a variety of different, even though they're maybe all spinning or all swinging apparatus, some of them are definitely harder and require more mobility than others to do. So that's basically then how we've decided on which pieces of equipment get into the playground. We also selected pieces of equipment that promote to a cooperative play. We think that is a really successful element that's happening in the playground, where again, kids of all ages, sizes, abilities are playing on the same pieces of equipment together and experience the same thing, which is very impactful and very powerful for that to happen. So we do look for the pieces of equipment that multiple kids can play on. The disc spinner, the disc swings, those things are very successful at bringing kids of different abilities together to play with each other. So.
I'd like to actually also add that if if we can't find something on the market that meets our needs, the foundation and our team has been working tirelessly to innovate items ourselves. So for example, we are creating these hideaway huts and placing them in the different zones where we're working with Barbara Butler, who's our treehouse designer and artist. And we learned that a lot of children and adults need to retreat and then slowly come out when they're ready and have opportunities to get away from the frenetic environment. So we've created hideaway huts and they're beautiful and you'll see them in Redwood City. We also, did we get everything right when we built Magical Bridge? Well, of course not. And we hear how we can improve and make the playgrounds better from Palo Alto. So our team has been working to create a magic map for the visually impaired or blind so that the use of technology can help wayfind through the playground, or there's going to be a tactile map that someone can touch before they enter the playground and be able to walk through and know where they're going. And if they want to go to the swinging zone, they know how to get there. Or maybe they want to stay away from swinging, go to spinning or sliding or the stage. So we continue as a foundation with a lot of help from Peter to come up with new ideas and to innovate and to test them out. And if they work, we'll continue to bring them to the playground project. So Mountain View will take a lot of our learnings from Palo Alto and Redwood City and Morgan Hill and Sunnyvale and be even that more magical and welcoming for everyone.
At this time, I do not have any additional questions waiting. Oh, never mind. One just popped in. Okay. Are the wheelchair swings a play element feature in your upcoming designs?
The specific wheelchair swing is not a play feature that we've incorporated into the design. Instead of using the swing, we use the sway boat, which is a little bit larger of an element, but multiple kids can play on it together that allow those that have limited mobility or those that are bound to wheelchairs the chance to feel or experience the swinging aspect or swinging motion. We really struggle with the wheelchair swing. Current safety standards requires that it has this little tiny fence around it. So basically, if you're in there using it, you're separated out and kind of called out as being different, and that's not something that we really want to promote in the playground. So until we can figure out and resolve that issue, I think that we're comfortable with just using the sway boat for that piece of equipment.
Looks like we have a raised hand. Larry, let me unmute you.
I actually asked the question about the Liberty swing or the wheelchair swings. I'm with the Chicago Park District. We struggle with that as well, the separatism versus the inclusion. Frankly, we happen to have a donor to give us one, and it's an expensive piece of equipment. So like you, Peter, I struggle with the placement so that we have some on-site because the fencing requirement, the installation costs are elevated. And so these are all the practical considerations that we all struggle with. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think, the general idea is great. And I'd love that if it, just because of the weight that it has on it, especially if you're in a mechanical wheelchair, the swinging back and forth, if it hits you, then it's definitely, it can do some damage. So we've spoken with some playground manufacturers about it to see, you know, what we can do to make it integrate better. I'm hoping that we can resolve that and perhaps use them in other playgrounds in the future. But as I said, at this time, it's very difficult to feel like you're part of the playground or incorporated in the play if you're fenced into this little tiny area. So it is something definitely that we struggle with. I mean, the other difficult part about it is that it's definitely not an inexpensive piece of equipment. It's very, very expensive. So, you know, trying to offset that cost and incorporate it into the overall design and meet the goals that we want of inclusivity, just it doesn't work at this time, unfortunately. So
I'm still working on it. I'll let you know.
well, thank you.
All right, thank you, Larry.
Okay, so the next question is, do you have any research about the social impact on the community?
I think I can answer that. So we actually did, not this past, 2 summers ago, we had our high school interns out just sort of doing questionnaires to over around 1,000 people who visited Magical Bridge and other playgrounds. Just interestingly, I think this is clearly before, this is pre-COVID. Only around 30% of our visitors came from Palo Alto. The rest came from surrounding communities. Visitors spent somewhere between 1 to 2 hours on the playground per visit. And Magical Bridge was, hundreds of times busier than the other playgrounds in Palo Alto. Many of our playgrounds are sitting idle, where Magical Bridge was incredibly and extraordinarily well used. Per our stats, we were averaging around 25,000 visitors a month. So people were coming out and playing at Magical Bridge, which is extraordinary. And that really, to us, underscored the urgent need that more playgrounds needed to be built like Magical Bridge. And it definitely sparked, a lot of these grants and the ability for us to bring Magical Bridge throughout the Bay Area, a big part because the county supervisors saw our value. But even more than that, we heard, people were discussing that we were really spreading, kindness and acceptance and, respect and dignity for all community members. And that Magical Bridge didn't scream out like, hey, this is the disability or disabled playground. It was more that if you happen to have a disability, whether it's visible or invisible, you too could finally play. And that meant that your family members could also come out and play. It just was this really cool playground that everyone loved. What also has sparked because of this, and there's a reminder with the Kindness Corner, is that we also have created an education companion so that we can give to the schools the ability for teachers to bring their students out to the playground to teach about kindness and compassion, respect and dignity for maybe someone who doesn't look like you or I do, right? We maybe look a little different or act a little different. And so it's spreading that awareness and that acceptance through the community. And it makes the entire community, a lot, it's the kind of community all of us will want to live in and bring our children to, bring our adults to. Seniors are coming out to play at Magical Bridge because it's fun and there's incredible benefits to play at every stage of life. If you're regressing with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, you love to swing and sway and get that vestibular movement, that rocking movement back and forth. And so we have seen that communities like Mountain View, like our other neighboring communities, will invest in something like this because it is so important. And it's like, we call it the Newtown Square for the 21st century. It's a new place that everyone will feel welcome and feel like they're part of the community. And it will make Mountain View even, more magical than it is today. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, the next question, how are Magical Bridge playgrounds similar or different from the Rotary Playground in San Jose?
I can answer this one. I think they're very similar in their form and size. I think the key difference is that Magical Bridge focuses on the play activities and grouping those play activities in zones, and then providing multiple pieces of equipment for multiple use levels for everyone to experience that play activity. I think that's the main difference between the playgrounds themselves. They each have similar slide mount forms. They each also use some of the same pieces of equipment. I think mostly it's just about the zones and the grouping of that equipment into these specific play activities and making sure that there's something for everyone to use there.
The other thing that I would add is that the Rotary Playground is open to the public on very specific hours, I think closed one day a week. Magical Bridge Mountain View is open to the public from sunrise to sunset. It is a public playground. Everyone is welcome, you know, during those hours.
Okay, I don't see any other questions at this time, but we can just wait a few minutes and see if anything else pops up.
While we're waiting, I'll make some comments here, and that is that the city council has authorized budget for this project, and I know that they're quite excited to see this come to fruition. The first time I saw Palo Alto, it just blew me out of the water. It is definitely different, and as a project manager for the city of Mountain View, I've worked on numerous park projects with the typical standard playground. And we are doing some currently, in fact. But this is just, I have to agree, this is quite an amazing project. So it looks like we're getting more here. I can say that I'm going to go to the last slide then, and I will say that if people have further questions after we conclude this Zoom community meeting, I'll put up my email address and you can send an email with some questions. We have on the city's website information on the Public Works page. Magical Bridge has a link to information on their site. So there's numerous ways you can continue to follow progress here. Okay. I will put up that slide then, and we'll conclude the meeting, but I want to put up the slide. Let me share my screen once again. Oh, I went right to the beginning. Let me flip through to the end. Oh, there we are. So this is my email address. It was on the postcard. If you received a postcard we sent out in the mail, but you can also find me. Just go to the City of Mountain View webpage. I'm in Public Works. This is the location you could drill down to additional information on our project. We will update it. I will also put a copy of this presentation on our website in the next couple of days. And the bottom line there is the web information for Magical Bridge. So we thank you. This is our first Zoom community meeting, and I hope that it was informative. Appreciate your comments and you attending this meeting tonight. This meeting is concluded, and thank you very much. Have a nice evening.